What's good, everybody? No. This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides.
Stop touching the cameras right before we go live.
We are the Fan Upstate, rolling on until 7 o'clock p.m. today. Can I get an amen? Rolling on until 7 o'clock p.m. today. Here's how you guys can be a part of the show. You can give us a ring at 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-FANFONE. That's 844-326-3663. And the CarPro.com text line is there for you at 71307. Just start your text with the word fan, and away you go on the show. Here is what is coming up on the show today. All right. We unknowingly stirred up a hornet's nest last night. I know you guys are shocked by that. The name of the show is Offsides. This should come as a surprise to nobody, right? So we will tackle that at 3:40 coming up on the show today. Hint, it involves Clemson. The voice of the Clemson Tigers, Don Munson, today joins us at 3:20 p.m. Jake Crane joins us at 4:20 p.m. We have a statistical smorgasbord coming your way today on the NFL. So many different interesting names and numbers to get to. Coming up at 4:40 p.m. today, you will see why we say stats are like bikinis. They show some things, but not all. At 4 o'clock p.m. today, this afternoon, who are the 5 most annoying people in sports? We've got the top 5 at 5. We've got an interview to share with you with one of the greatest Colorado Buffaloes of all time. You know him as Slash from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Had a chance to sit down with Cordell Stewart. That's coming your way at 5:20 p.m. this afternoon. And we've got your North and South Carolina top 10 and so much more coming your way between the hours of 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. this afternoon. Along the way, here's how you guys can take part in what we've got cooking. You can give us a ring at 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-FANFONE. That's 844-326-3663. The CarPro.com text line is there for you at 71307. Just start your text with the word fan, and away you go on the show. Let us open with this. Monday Night Football last night. Carolina and the New Orleans Saints. And my worst fears for the Carolina Panthers were confirmed. They are a long way away. And Carolina Panthers fans are now feeling, well, wait a minute. We were close last year with Steve Wilkes. Did we make the wrong decision with Frank Reich? Did we make the wrong decision with Bryce Young? Perhaps. Although what I would share with you is, in order to do that right, you had to take one step back to take 2 steps forward. The problem is, as we've addressed in another segment on this show, I think it was last week or the week before, the NFL is the one sport where fans have zero patience for losing. You know, Gamecock fans understand the losses right now with Shane Beamer. He's building something, right? The program is building. The program is growing. They understand that. They get that, right? In the NBA, the Spurs wanted to be the worst team in the NBA so they could get Victor Wembanyama. The Houston Astros fans now talk about their 3 straight 100-loss seasons with pride because it allowed them to put together a roster that has now won 2 World Series. But see, the NFL, we've all heard the same saying over and over and over again, right? We've all heard the following, that every team is designed to be 8-8. So when your team is not 8-8, you feel like something bad is going on. Is Bryce Young the guy at number 1? Was he the right guy? Is Frank Reich the right head coach? I don't know. I really don't know. I think obviously it's way too early to tell, but I will say that what is going on now had to happen in order for this team one day to rise again. They had a defensive head coach. That is not what's winning in the NFL today. You had a bunch of odd parts and odd places. You had no quarterback, right? Now you've got like a hodgepodge of different pieces and talent and a rookie quarterback and the second worst offensive weapons in the NFL.
And you got a bad offensive line.
Bad offensive line, bad weapons, rookie quarterback.
Old tight ends,
and a coach, a brand new coach in a new market. What did you think was going to happen? It's interesting to me, Diesel. I don't know what your big takeaway was from the game last night, and mine was, okay, this to me is not an announcement that they made the wrong moves.
Mm-hmm.
I saw glimpses of good things from Bryce Young. I saw turnovers, plural, from Bryce Young. I saw good. I saw bad. I see a bad offensive line. I see no weapons out there for him. I see, how do you possibly blame this guy for what's going on? None of his receivers have any separation out there. But I see, Diesel, a situation that could get ugly for the Carolina Panthers this year. And if you do get the number 1 overall pick in a draft that has Shedeur Sanders, Caleb Williams, Drake May, now suddenly, Diesel, your job is to take the remaining 15 games of the season and make a call. Because right now, brother, the Panthers are staring straight at that number 1 pick. Okay? They are. They're staring straight at that number 1 pick. Do you like Michael Penix Jr.? Do you like Drake May? Do you like Caleb Williams? Do you like Shedeur Sanders? Do you like Bo Nix? Do you like Quinn Ewers? Who do you like? It seems senseless, right, to take a quarterback 2 years in a row. But as part of doing your due diligence, if you have the number 1 pick, part of doing that due diligence is making sure that there isn't a much better player out there than the one that you have.
Well, here's the big problem with that. Well, there's 2 big problems with what you said. Number 1, if you tank the second year in a row and you got the number 1 overall pick, you still find yourself in exactly the same place. You got a quarterback, but you got nobody around him. Now, the second and much more damning problem with that is the Carolina Panthers don't have a first-round pick next year.
Sure.
They don't have a first-round pick. So tanking does not help the Carolina Panthers at all.
Yeah, believe it or not, Diesel, I wasn't referencing tanking. I think they're gonna have, the number 1, number 2, or number 3 slot anyway. I temporarily forgot that they don't have next year's pick.
Well,
so it doesn't behoove them anyway.
The only way the Carolina Panthers will get a number 1 pick next year is if they trade Brian Burns. And if they pick up first round picks for Brian Burns. That is the only way they're going to get it. And I don't know how the tanking situation works in the NFL. Would the Carolina Panthers need a team that they traded him to tank so that they would get that team's number 1 pick? Because they don't have a number 1 pick of their own next year. And it's interesting, Mark. I found a website as I'm doing prep for the Carolina Kickoff Show, which, by the way, thanks to JD for coming out. Thanks to UNC Chris for coming out. We had a handful of P1s of this show come out to the show yesterday. There's a website called tankathon.com/NFL that shows you right now the standings for who's got the number 1 pick next year. And 1 through 5 are Denver, Chicago. Chicago, what's going on in Chicago? The LA Chargers, Minnesota, and Arizona by way of Houston's first-round pick. So I don't know how that works. If you traded into somebody's first-round pick next year, can you tank and get the number 1 overall pick? Or do you need that team to tank so that you can get their number 1 overall pick?
Yeah, so
what are the rules?
Chicago has our pick, right?
Yes, Chicago has Carolina's first-round pick next year.
So Chicago is now in the driver's seat, Diesel. And essentially, as we've always said, doing what Carolina should have done. Okay, they've got Justin Fields, and now they have Justin Fields in year 3.
Right.
Okay, now they can give him the full keys to the car and make a determination. Is he the problem? Is the head coach the problem? We've got a defensive head coach. Like, now they're going to have ample evidence in which to decide what to do. And they, too, look awful. But, Diesel, back to the point at hand to me, this team doesn't look close.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got a home game against a mediocre Saints team breaking in their own brand new quarterback. Mm-hmm. You've got a Monday Night Football crowd, et cetera, et cetera. I didn't get the sense that they were ever threatening really to score until garbage time.
Well, it wasn't much of a crowd. I remember Diddy and I were sitting at the bar at Dave & Buster's. He came over there as well after we finished up. And at opening kickoff, Bank of America Stadium wasn't more than 2/3 full. It was awful. It was awful. Now, it filled in as the game went along, but Carolina Panthers fans would rather tailgate in the lots around it and walk in, be there midway through the first quarter. That's fine. But I'm telling you, Chicago is set up really nicely next year. They're going to have 2 first-round picks, and as of right now, they are set to have the number 2 and the number 9 pick. 2 top 10 picks for the Chicago Bears next year.
So that is point number 1. Point number 2 that we wanted to make in the opening segment is what Diesel just touched on. All right. I'm watching last night. I'm sitting down. I got Angela next to me. I got Jackson next to me. We're watching Monday Night Football. And I'm like, babe, I can't hear anything. Can you turn the volume up? Turn the volume up. Now the volume's on 56. What? It still doesn't feel like I'm watching a football game. Like, what? Can you turn the volume up higher? She's like, babe, it's on 56. Now it's on 66. The atmosphere at that game, Monday Night Football, you've got the number 1 pick in the draft. It is his first home game. Mm-hmm. You have a new era. You have a new head coach, new regime, Monday Night freaking football. And I thought the atmosphere sounded like you put earplugs in. It felt muted. It felt neutered. And my wife asked me, I think on Sunday, she said, why do you like college football better than the NFL? And I said, because college football to me, less so now with NIL, but it still feels far more organic. It feels far more raucous. It feels far more important, right? The NFL to me feels homogenized. And the difference in the freaking atmospheres is one of the top reasons why college football is so far ahead of the NFL to me. There is, you've got a few NFL atmospheres that can contend with some halfway decent college atmospheres. Lambeau Field, Arrowhead Stadium, maybe the Superdome in New Orleans when it's really rocking. Those can contend with like an Ole Miss atmosphere or an Arkansas atmosphere. Not the best. It doesn't contend with a Penn State whiteout. It doesn't contend with the Swamp. It doesn't contend with Death Valley and Baton Rouge. But there are 3 NFL atmospheres that when they're really rocking can be like an Ole Miss or can be like an Arkansas. But that crowd last night, number 1 pick, Monday Night Football, new coach, new regime, sucked. The atmosphere sucked.
I'm going to make a bold suggestion here, Mark. I'm going to say that it was a terrible idea. Terrible idea. Even though it is centralized between the 2 states, terrible idea to put the Carolina Panthers in Charlotte. You put the team in a state that doesn't give a rip about football. I think a little bit. There's a little bit of a football culture in the state of North Carolina, but not really. Like, South Carolina is the football state, even though the North Carolina Tar Heels snatched that away from the Gamecocks. They punked you. The real culture for football is still in South Carolina. I'm going to make a bold suggestion here. Let's move the Carolina Panthers to Columbia or Greenville. Either one. It's not going to be Greenville because there's already a team in Atlanta, 2.5 hours away, though. That works up north. It works when you're talking about Cleveland and Pittsburgh and Philly and D.C. and Baltimore and all these cities that are packed tightly, closely together. It's great up there. But I'm going to say the Carolina Panthers need to move their stadium to South Carolina. Let's go. Who's with me?
Everyone's with you. I mean, everyone's with you. But the problem is, as well as I know, that's never going to happen.
I know.
They
Charlotte, who am I to come up with great ideas?
Charlotte was. I still really like the the floating around the lazy river around Greenville. I still really like that. But, they essentially artificially made Diesel Charlotte. Okay. They artificially made it to give the South a big city on the East Coast. You needed a big city somewhere between the Northeast and Miami.
But it's a banking hub.
Right. But but they decided, in other words, it didn't happen organically. They decided we're going to make Charlotte a big city. Right. They decided that. And
imagine if they made Raleigh the big city and Charlotte would still be no bigger than Spartanburg.
There you go. But guys, frankly, for both states, for North and South Carolina, I was embarrassed by the atmosphere I saw last night. Somebody on Twitter said to me, Mark, because I put this on Twitter, he said, Mark, one of the worst teams in the NFL, one of the worst stadiums in the NFL. Okay. One of the worst fan bases in the NFL. Sorry, not sorry. What did you expect? Worst fan base, worst stadium, worst team. I don't know, man. Monday Night Football, #1 pick, his first home game ever. It sounded like this. It was like,
and you can't blame, like they do at low-level college football games, you can't blame it on poor mic placement.
Oh, yeah.
This is the NFL. There are microphones everywhere. There's microphones in the urinals. You don't even know it.
And it made me wonder if they felt like they were going to have to pump in sound at some point. Remember they were doing that during the pandemic? There's nobody there.
Oh,
you're watching
sad.
the games. You hear the sound there, even though there's nobody there in attendance. I wondered that last night. What do you guys think? What do you make of that? And again, Diesel, we're talking Carolina Panthers, and we've got really good, strong points, and it's a freaking dead zone.
Yeah.
The people here just do not give AF.
I think.
And that's I feel for you. That is your biggest challenge with what you do, is trying to figure out a way to make people care.
Yeah, it's tough to get people to come out and win prizes and win tickets to a team that sucks. It's not easy. Sadly, I do think there is a real risk, unless Carolina Panthers get off their collective hands, get off their collective asses. There is a real risk that one day David Tepper could try to move that team, get it out of Charlotte, get it to a city that's hungry for football and wants it more.
Well, if he tries to hit up that city for a new stadium, Diesel, given the early vibes surrounding him, I wouldn't be surprised if the feedback is don't let the door hit you or the good Lord split you. But we have got Don Munson, the voice of the Clemson Tigers, joining us next right here on the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. It's Offsides, Mark, Ryan, and Diesel. We are the Fan Upstate, rolling on until 7 o'clock p.m. today. Fantastic to have you guys with us. Don Munson, the voice of the Clemson Tigers, set to be joining us momentarily here on the show. Texter says, it hasn't always been like this. I've been to many games, some on Mondays. Tepper's Panthers have a different feel, coupled with going on a decade of no playoff wins. It deflates a fan base. I still go, I'm still loud, but the casual fan and young fans haven't had anything to cheer about. You can change the QB, you can change the coach, hell, even the location. But if the owner and fans aren't on the same page, it's hard to do that. It's hard to have success. All right. So, what, I don't know. I don't know, Chris. I don't know if I buy it's not our fault, it's their fault. I don't know if I buy that at this point. You got the number one pick. You got the number one overall quarterback. You got a brand new coach. You got a brand new regime. It's Monday night freaking football. You're obviously not going to be great for a while, but if there was ever a time to get excited, it would be your number one pick's first home game. That should have been fever pitch excitement level. Dan Mullen said it best, I thought. He was complaining about the fans that were in Gainesville. Okay, like he was complaining about the crowd, like a swamp that is 2/3 filled. And he says, you guys don't get it. It's you fill the stadium, then we win, not the other way around. Okay, not we win, then you come. He said that isn't how it works. You fill the stadium, then we win. I did not sense what I thought was a major league environment last night.
There is also, Mark, to play devil's advocate here, there's a very real concern to be said for ownership and management who are overcharging and nickel and diming fans for every penny they can get out of them. There's a lot of fans, we talk about it all the time. People have choices. People are savvier, having to be more savvy with their money. Everything is getting more and more and more expensive. Salaries aren't going up, but everything's getting more and more expensive. So people have to be very, very choosy with their money. Yet big time ownership of big time teams, concert venues, promoters, they don't seem to understand this. They don't get it. They were like, well, you should just go deeper into debt to buy our product. And people are saying, hell no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing it.
I don't get it. So let me tease what is coming up in the very next segment of the show. We have not yet reached Don Munson. We are trying to reach Don Munson. This is Don Munson's scheduled segment. We certainly appreciate him agreeing to come on this show each and every week at this time. So I asked a question last night, and again, this is the topic for next segment. I want to float it out there to you guys. I find time and again that the audiences that we have on social media are very different than the live audience we have here on the air. Okay. But last night, I'm watching the Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it dawns upon me that, this is the second year for Kenny Pickett. Last year, Pittsburgh needed a quarterback. Cleveland needed a quarterback. Deshaun Watson was out there. And Pittsburgh said, no, we're good. Deshaun Watson doesn't fit in here, right? Cleveland was soundly criticized throughout the league for giving the richest and most guaranteed money in NFL history to a player who had 30 civil suits against him. Now, I asked this question last night on Twitter because I thought it was intriguing and I thought it was compelling. All right. And I learned, just like I've shared with you guys over the last few weeks, that for some reason today you can get in trouble for sharing facts. Like if you post a fact, people are like, what are you trying to say? So I could post for you the following that Shadow of Death Valley shared with us yesterday. North Carolina had 9 sacks against South Carolina. They had 1 sack combined against App State and Minnesota. What are you trying to say? I mean, that's like I posted a fact. Last night, I asked a question. Clemson fans, do you still claim Deshaun Watson? And I want to bring you guys into this because the response was not what I expected. And, you know, Clemson fans are some of them are starting to paint me in a certain way here. Okay. What I expected, the reason why I asked the question is because it's hard to figure out that answer, especially if you are a Clemson fan. Now, not being a Clemson fan, I don't believe I claim Deshaun Watson anymore. The proof that I learned that showed me that Clemson fans were, at least a percentage of them, are on the fence about Deshaun is, you know, a couple years ago, we did the medal stand for Clemson quarterbacks, and Deshaun was clearly gold. Trevor Lawrence was silver. Taj Boyd was bronze. When we did the same thing 2 years ago, and neither of those guys have been at Clemson in 2 years, people were arguing with me that Trevor Lawrence should be the gold medal. Now, why would they do that? Because a percentage no longer claims Deshaun Watson. What I expected was for a lot of people to say, man, that's an interesting question. I'm torn. I thought I might get a few yeses. I might get a few no's. I thought the majority of people would say, Mark Ryan, that's a really good question. I'm torn. I'm torn. What I got was 99% of Clemson fans saying, hell yeah, we claim him. What kind of a question is this? He's the GOAT. What he did didn't happen at Clemson. That didn't happen at Clemson. Yeah, but what OJ didn't happen at USC. Should USC claim OJ?
It's called separating the art from the artist.
Yeah, and
Vince Neil killed somebody, yet he's still beloved as the lead singer of Motley Crue.
Deshaun was not found guilty of anything. OJ Simpson was not found guilty of anything. So anyway, guys, you know, here's where I'm torn on this, and here's where I bring you guys in. Okay, I am torn because you have heard me say till I'm blue in the face, as blue as the shirt Diesel has on right now. For those of you on the YouTube stream, that it bothers me deeply that people can merely accuse someone of something and ruin that person's life. And you guys don't live in that bubble, but I do. Diesel and I are public figures. We're out in public, doing public things, doing shows. And it makes us nervous that anybody could make up any accusation against us, and we might have to go through something because somebody made something up. That's not what happened here with Deshaun Watson. At minimum, you know, and you guys, your thoughts are welcome here. At minimum, what we know about Deshaun Watson is he scheduled massages with a bunch of different masseuses, attempting to have sex with them, an act that many of these masseuses did not know was going to be attempted. He then, according to multiple testimonies, when the masseuse came into the room, he had the towel removed and had exposed himself in an aroused state when the masseuse came into the room. Folks, like, to me, at minimum, that's what happened here. This isn't a baseless accusation with nothing to it, okay? At minimum, Deshaun Watson did that, scheduled massages with the attempt of wanting to have sex with his masseuses. He apparently was successful in consensual sex with some of them. He apparently was unsuccessful in convincing for consensual sex with the other ones. And those that he could not convince had a problem with the way he acted. Colin Cowherd today, and he did this 3 times. I watched the first segment of Colin Cowherd today. He said, you know, Pittsburgh was right not to go after Deshaun. Cleveland did because they're a loser franchise. And he said he continuously referred to Deshaun Watson as a creep with 20-plus civil suits. He's a creep with 20-plus civil suits. Yet when I asked the question to Clemson fans, do you still claim Deshaun Watson? 99% say, duh, of course. Like, what does it mean to claim somebody? To claim somebody means you accept and welcome them as one of your own, right? You proudly accept them as one of your own. That's what it means. Somebody said, well, Mark Ryan, do you claim Aaron Hernandez? Hell no. What do you mean, do I claim Aaron Hernandez? Hell no. Like that to me is an obvious answer. So why then is it so obvious to Clemson fans that claiming Deshaun Watson still should happen? And to the folks who said, well, why would you ask this, Mark Ryan? I ask because I'm interested in hearing how you feel about it. I appreciate your response. NFL teams face the same question. The Browns said yes. The Steelers said no. They were playing last night. Kevin Siegel tweeted in a response that I really admired. He said, man, it's tough. I claim him in that he led Clemson to greatness and for a time was my favorite football player maybe ever. What's transpired since is still hard to wrap my head around. Where there's smoke, there's fire, and I don't know what to make of it. OJ fans probably relate. Yeah, they do. Jackson Wolf on the other side, Diesel, said, you aren't a Clemson fan if you don't claim DW4. What he did for Clemson's program is untouchable. Dr. Clemson tweeted in, and he said, absolutely. And this excerpt, Mark, represents my belief on Deshaun Watson. I'm going to read this here for you. For anyone hating on Deshaun Watson and calling him a rapist, please keep in mind that he was never indicted for any crime despite being sent to multiple grand juries in multiple states. Grand juries have a 98% indictment rate, and he survived multiple ones without being indicted, which is practically statistically impossible, unless, of course, there was really no crime that occurred. Okay, I'm just going to read this, then I'm going to give you my thoughts. Yes, he probably did have a sexual fetish with way too many massage therapists, but I believe everything that occurred was consensual. All the accusations against him were generated from one sleazy attorney who was best friends and the neighbor of the former Texans owner. I believe he was able to get all those women involved because he was able to convince them by getting involved they would get a significant payday in the end. He did eventually settle the civil cases against him, but I believe that was essentially forced by the NFL that would never let him play again unless he did. So in my opinion, the real bad guys in this saga were the sleazy attorney and the vengeful former Texans owner. Watson was just a moron who did not understand how now being a rich and famous athlete put a huge target on his back. By all reports, Watson was actually a good guy before this all happened, as he was very involved with multiple charitable organizations, especially Habitat for Humanity. Unfortunately, now any charitable organization will not work with him because he's been given this toxic label. Boy, if I've ever read a thing that makes Deshaun the victim, more so in my life.
Here's the boilerplate of what he just said.
It's not what you know, it's what you can prove.
Yeah, that's what happened here, man.
Yeah,
that's what happened. And so, folks,
bending over backwards to absolve somebody. Look, again, none of us know. None of us know what happened, but you're bending over backwards to assume a conspiracy. That is what he is supposing, that a conspiracy took place, that a vengeful owner, a sleazy attorney, and dozens of women out for a payday conspired against a good guy who had done all the right things and had never been in trouble before.
Do you guys realize that sexual assault complaints are 93% accurate? Okay. Now, I want you to just take that and understand, right, that one of you could issue a sexual complaint against me and it would not be true. You could do that against Diesel. You could say it happened last night.
With me, Mark, no one complains.
Yes. And it would not be true. It would not be true. Okay. So I get that false reports are out there, but 30 women. Okay. That's point number one. Point number two is we know he was guilty of creepy, sleazy behavior. Soliciting massage therapists to pull the gotcha, now let's have sex. That's creepy behavior. You know he did that, right? Like we all know he did that. And many of them have said when they entered the room, he was laying there erect, no towel. So like I thought it was a fair question. Do you guys still claim Deshaun Watson? And what really kind of pushed me the other direction was 99% of Clemson fans saying, hell yeah, we do.
Yeah, look, we always complain, Mark, that kids in our society are not prepared for real world consequences for their actions. We say things like, why are we learning trigonometry and geometry, but we're not learning how to balance a checkbook? I mean, that's an outdated reference because nobody has checkbooks anymore. But why are we not learning financial literacy in high school and in college? Why are college football programs not preparing pro-level athletes for professional literacy? Like, you are about to have a financial whirlwind that you cannot even fathom right now. If you get past that rookie deal and you get a big chunk of money, you're going to have so much more than you've ever had in your entire life. Now, here's a laundry list of pitfalls that befall players time and time and time and time again. And maybe they do. Maybe they do. You've heard stories about players who did the wrong things coming back and speaking to young players and saying, hey, guys, I made a whole bunch of mistakes. Don't make the same mistakes I make. And then some of them just don't listen. There are dumbasses everywhere. Every single day. You've been told every single day that some of these drugs are terrible for you and they're going to kill you. But guess what people do? Every single day, they go and do those drugs.
Jackson Wolf on Twitter said, I said, man, because Mark Hodge gave me a response, Diesel, that I thought that I valued. He said, as a lifelong Clemson fan, Deshaun clearly had or has an addiction, and he embarrassed our program. To claim he didn't know these women is ridiculous. I said, man, I wish every Clemson fan was able to take the orange glasses off long enough to be as objective as you are. To which Jackson Wolf said, orange glasses, laughing my ass off. His situation had nothing to do with football. I claim him all day long as a Clemson football player, and if I were the Texans, I would still claim him. His situation had nothing to do with playing football. To which I sent him the gif of, excuse me? Sorry, come again? Had nothing to do with playing football. Do you claim him? It's all related, folks. It's all related. Murder someone off the field, well, that had nothing to do with football. I claim him. Patrick Creighton, a friend of mine, a host from Houston, says Houston sure as hell doesn't claim the air humper. Folks, I'm just asking you guys, are you conflicted about it? Are you sure? Yay or nay, right or wrong? Yay or yes or no? You tell me. Offsides continues right after this. Voice of the Clemson Tigers, Don Munson, joins us on the show. Our lines got crossed coming in. Don, I'm opening with a fastball today. I was watching Cleveland against Pittsburgh last night, and both NFL franchises had a need for a quarterback last year. Pittsburgh said no thanks to Deshaun Watson. Cleveland said yes to Deshaun Watson. I covered Deshaun Watson in Houston. I was there when he gave his first ever paycheck to the cafeteria workers at NRG Stadium, who had lost a lot during Hurricane Harvey. But I was sitting last night and I was like, if a Clemson fan is watching this, they've got to feel conflicted about how they feel about him today. And Don, I thought, who better just to get a sense for what that's like at Clemson than the voice of Clemson himself? Can we just get some brief thoughts from you there, Don, on maybe just how Clemson fans might feel conflicted on what to think about Deshaun now?
Well, certainly, things that have happened here in the last 3 to 4 years have stirred up some things, but I think he's like all of us. We've all made mistakes in life. He just happens to be in a position where everything that he's done is going to have the light just absolutely shown on it. But he readily admits he's made mistakes. The truth, though, that, on one side or the other is usually, somewhere in the middle, wherever that is. But but he's one of us. He's part of the family. So we're going to love up on him. We're going to try to, cheer him on, try to get the past behind him, hoping that he doesn't make those mistakes again, that he learns from those mistakes. And moves along and has a successful career in Cleveland. And hopefully, he does so well there that he carries that franchise on to newer heights and retires a Cleveland Brown.
Don, I have to think that most college football programs, as they're preparing star players to go off into the NFL and just go off into life in general, they have systems in place to try to warn players of the pitfalls that come with massive financial swings in their lives and things like that. I have to assume that Clemson had done the same thing with Deshaun and with other players. Can you speak to what systems and like the guest speakers and things like that Clemson has for players like that and teaching them how to deal with life after Clemson?
Oh, absolutely. They have this thing called Paul Journey, which is PAW is an acronym for passionate about winning. That was an acronym that was developed by Jeff Davis, the great All-American and Hall of Fame linebacker at Clemson. And so he heads up this, what is called Paul Journey. And it is, as Coach Sweeney says, it's all there to equip these kids for the tools for life. It helps them with resume building. It helps them with interviewing. It helps them, just internships, everything like that, getting ready for life after college is over and after even professional football is over, to make sure that the, as he likes to say, the 19-year-old you is very much responsible for the 30-year-old you. And that's absolutely so. All these things they're way more developed now than when Deshaun was playing football at Clemson. I mean, it's leaps and bounds beyond, because it was really kind of in the beginning stages when Deshaun was there playing. But again, Sean's a grown up. Deshaun knows, what's right and what's wrong. There are absolutes in this world, whether people want to believe that or not. There are absolutely absolutes in this world. There is morality that is in this world. And, sometimes we stray from that. But that's all of us. I mean, that's what my faith tells me, that the reason that Christ died on the cross is because I'm a sinner and I'm in need of that salvation and that forgiveness. And, so that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to forgive. We're supposed to also forget and move along, and then hope that we learn from our mistakes in life. And again, that's what Deshaun needs to be able to do, put it behind him. Sometimes that's the toughest thing to do, though, is to put that kind of stuff behind you, particularly when it's played out in the media so very vividly.
Amen. Very well said. Don Munson, the voice of the Clemson Tigers, joining us here on Offsides. Don, our prescription for Clemson heading into the weekend was no anxiety, no trepidation in this game. You got a better opponent than Charleston Southern coming in, but you've got vastly superior talent to them. It's time to not piddle around. It's time to step on their throat, and it's time to exert your dominance. I thought Clemson really did a fine job of that. Along the way, I saw a much improvement in many of the areas of concern from the two previous weeks. Is that about how you assessed game number 3, Don?
Yeah, particularly you look at the first 2 quarters of play. I mean, when you start the game, a minute and a half in, the guy takes 146 yards for a touchdown. You can't get a better start than that. I mean, heck, you were talking about watching the Browns and the Steelers last night. That was what the Steelers did. The very first pass of Watson is deflected around and gets picked off and taken to the house for 6. There's nothing like that. That was one of the great things that helped them in the 18 national championship game, was being able to pick Tuivasa so very early in that game, and all of a sudden you're up 7-0, and you haven't even, your offense isn't out there on the field scoring. It's your defense that is scoring for you. You get those kind of things, and momentum really starts running your way. Obviously the third quarter they came out, and be perfectly honest with you, it wasn't as sharp as it was in the first 2 quarters, but that was all right because they didn't make big mistakes. They weren't turning the ball over in the third quarter. And then fourth quarter rolls around, and you're really starting to see some of the second, third, heck, even fourth team guys that are in there playing and trying to develop for this team. And I think that we did see a little bit of that, both offensively and defensively.
Don Munson joining us here on Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, the Fan upstate. All right, Don, Florida State at Clemson. I certainly feel a lot more hope surrounding Clemson's efforts in this game today than I did a week ago. What with Florida State really struggling with a mediocre Boston College side, and Clemson, as we've already discussed, As you size up this matchup, Don, what are some of the keys to the game for you?
Well, certainly turnovers. I mean, turnovers are going to be huge in this ball game. If whichever team can win that battle, you certainly think that's a big step up. Something tells me I still think this is a game that you're going to have to put. I bet you the winning side has 35 points on the board, at least 35 points on the board. So it's going to be one of those kind of games. I don't think that there's necessarily going to be either defense that can come out and really dominate things because I think we've seen, both of these offenses are pretty good, and certainly Florida State's in most people's mind is even is better than what Clemson has put out there on the board. But defensively, Florida State has struggled, and I think they showed that a little bit against Boston College. And the key now for Clemson is to come out, and they won't be able to do the exact same things that Boston College. I mean, heck, that quarterback for BC is, just like a little water bug, and he was causing all kinds of problems. But what Boston College did do was run the ball straight at Florida State. I mean, they ran straight at Florida State with some power, and I think that Clemson can do that. I think that they have that in Shipley and Moffa and what is up front on the offensive line that they can do some of that stuff. What I really like, BC's game plan involves some odd looks. I mean, we saw some of the unbalanced line for them. That the unbalanced line, Mark and Diesel, has always been something that has always intrigued me, because every time I've seen teams run an unbalanced line, it seems like they are just tremendously successful in being able to pound out a ground game and just move the line of scrimmage. And why more teams don't do that, I just can't figure out, to be perfectly honest with you. I love unbalanced lines. And even though that tells the defense, we're coming at you, well, that's good. We're coming at you, but you got to stop it. And most teams just can't stop it.
We look forward to being in Death Valley with you in the press box on Saturday, Don, and we so greatly appreciate you making a few minutes for us each week, as you always do. Have a great week and a great call.
Appreciate you both. Go Tigers.
All right, take care. Don Munson, the voice of the Clemson Tigers, joining us right here on Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, we are the Fan Upstate. Coming up next, who are the 5 most annoying people in sports? Yes, Diesel and I are eligible. That's next. Here are the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. What's good, my friends? This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate, rolling on until 7 o'clock p.m. today. You guys have a ton of options out there. Truly do appreciate you making us part of your day each and every day here on the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. So, want to bring you guys behind the scenes on a couple of different things here, okay? The first one is, people typically say, like, when do you start talking about the next week's games? And my philosophy has always been, right, like Monday is obviously a review day with new topics, right, on the weekend that was. Tuesday is kind of an assessing the landscape day with still a little bit of review. Wednesday is the day that in earnest you begin looking ahead toward the next week's action, right? If we're breaking down Clemson, Florida State on Monday, it's just too many days of game breakdowns. 80% of sports radio listeners are casual sports fans. Do we want to appeal to the 80% or the 20% hardcore fans, right? So it's like you learn kind of how to work your way through a game week like this. We understand how big Clemson, Florida State is. We understand how big it is. All right. I also want to share with you this. There is like an interesting sidebar here. Diesel, have you ever had anybody that for a reason you were either able to or not able to identify, this person has an axe to grind with you? For whatever reason, maybe you knew the reason, maybe you didn't, but they're just after you, man.
Yeah, I've had that happen before.
You've had that happen before?
Yeah, I've had that happen before.
I've got one of those going right now. And the guy's name, he is a college football writer for CBS. And his name is Barrett Sallee. You've heard of him.
Yep.
And 2019, he and I got into a tiff about Tiger Woods when Tiger Woods won the Masters. And I was like, I'll never cheer for him. I think he's a bad dude. And he got really upset that I said that, because he was like, greatest moment of my life, all this other stuff.
The guy got emotional.
Yeah, he got emotional. But after that, Diesel, he never let it go. So he unfollowed me. And then every single chance he gets, anytime I go viral, he goes out of his way to like add fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
So last night I said, Clemson fans, do you still claim Deshaun Watson? I recently went through and unblocked everybody that I had blocked on social media. Everybody gets a second chance.
It's like timeout. You put everybody in timeout for a while.
Right. He then quote tweets it and he goes, here it is, ladies and gentlemen, the single dumbest college football question I've ever seen. Like that's every chance he gets. It's like, bro, like,
how do you get to that level where he is in this business?
Yeah.
And be that petty. I mean, he's got 127,000 followers.
Yeah. And Diesel, like I've said to him, yeah, look, man.
He's also got a receding hairline.
I've said, you've had an axe to grind with me ever since Tiger Woods. And he goes, I literally don't know you. And like,
you retweet me.
I've known that guy since 2009.
Yeah.
Since 2009. And he says publicly, I literally don't know you. You know what I mean? Last year, Diesel, when I had the scoop from Greg Sankey that they wanted to do away with divisions in the SEC, remember that? He said, don't give this idiot any credit for this. This has been known for years. This has been known. And I was like, well, you clearly see it's going viral. Fox Sports picked it up. Evidently, everyone didn't know about it. But it's like every time, Diesel, I get something that pops, he's there to like
throw water on it.
Every single time.
I mean, look, it's not fun. I know it's not fun because we are tribal, right? We are tribal. And if the person that you follow says, boo this man, everybody boos that man. So it's not fun to get booed like that. But 127,000 people are now seeing your content who otherwise wouldn't have seen your content.
Thank you, sir.
So, thanks winning. Some of them will be tribal enough to just pick up a pitchfork and march headlong into it just because their guy said so without any clue of what's actually going on here. But some of them will say, maybe there's something to this. So, it's the old 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
80% are gonna love what you have to say. 20% are gonna hate what you have to say, but the 20% are gonna raise 80% of the stink. So, take the 20%, appreciate that. I mean, that's 28,000 people who now are going to agree with what you have to say out of the 127 that he does have.
Yeah.
So thanks, man.
But every time, Diesel, every time, it's without fail. Every time you see something of mine, whoa, Ryan has something here that's really popping. It's a guarantee that he's going to be throwing water.
Here's what you got to do. You got to go all Deion Sanders on him. Every time he tries to throw shade at you, just retweet it. Like, you know what? I'm just out here trying to do the best job that I can. I'm just out here trying to inform my listeners and my people of when I've got a great inside scoop. Man, I'm not trying to bother this dude. I'm not trying to mess with this guy, yet he makes it personal. He makes it personal every single time. And you know what? You're gonna have to hang on to the video, hang on to the GIF, whatever it is, and then just respond with this.
They messed around and made it what?
Messed around and made it personal, and he's trying to make it personal.
Yeah, like I don't get it. I don't get it. So, my friends, with that as the backdrop, we bring you into this question: who are the 5 most annoying people in sports? Okay, 1 through 5. Your honest opinion. Okay, because that dude is annoying. And he acts like he doesn't want anybody to know where this started. I remember where it started. Okay, he remembers where it started. He recently discovered that he was unblocked by me And now the same thing is happening every single time I have one again. I haven't decided yet, Diesel, whether I just want to reblock him or not. I'd really like to keep everybody unblocked, like that's kind of transparency is kind of the MO of our show. But Barrett Sallee, okay, comes in for me at number 5 on my list of the 5 most annoying people in sports. He's just annoying, and anyone can plainly see that a few times a year, he just goes out of his way to throw shade, Hey, buddy. And the other thing, Diesel, is if I ever gave him an opportunity to get me fired, you think that guy wouldn't jump all over that? You think he wouldn't jump all over that? He's already tried. So
You bet your ass Sally would.
yeah. I saw. Oh, Barrett Sallee, ladies and gentlemen. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. So I got Barrett Sallee 5. I got Jimbo Fisher 4. Speak softly, but carry a big stick. An old wise man once said that. Jimbo Fisher speaks loudly and carries nothing. He has no substance to all the venom that he spits out there. And oh, by the way, folks, he still has a worse record in the SEC at Texas A&M than Kevin Sumlin did. Now, Kevin Sumlin was forced out. What about Jimbo? What's going on there? What, a 16-point loss to Miami? Is that cool?
Despicable.
That cool?
I have nothing to add.
The third most annoying person in sports to me. Are you ready? Kyler Murray. I am so disappointed. Do you guys remember like early 2020 or something? Lonzo and I had it out about Kyler Murray and whether he's going to be great. And Lonzo started playing Don't Like No Short People, the song, right? He started playing that on the air. And for a while, I was dead on and I was right. And he just had way too much ability to bust. What you could have never have forecasted is that he'd have been such an idiot off the field and not studied his playbook and rather be playing video games. And he's not a leader. And it looks to me like Arizona's going to move off of him after this year. Like on the list of athletes who have thrown it all away, Kyler Murray is rapidly rising up that list.
But you ain't bona fide.
Doesn't seem to be.
He ain't bona fide.
Doesn't seem to be. The second most annoying person in all of sports to me, Diesel, is Aaron Rodgers. I'm just like, gonna have to start cutting some reps. You know what I mean? Like that attitude and pointing the finger at everyone but himself. And Diesel, he was known in Green Bay. When he didn't like a play call, he just threw the ball away. And the coaching staff would be infuriated because he'd literally just hike the ball and throw it away. He had more time than that. Didn't like the play, hike the ball, throw it away. You give me that garbage, I chuck it right back at you. That's what he did. He is passive aggressive. He is petty. He is arrogant. I was looking forward to seeing the Jets implode this year with him. I really was. I'm bummed that I don't get to see that train wreck. He's the second most annoying person in sports. And of course, I have to make way for the most annoying person in sports right now. Okay? The most annoying person in sports. And then we open it up to your most annoyings. 71307 on the carpro.com text line. Just start your text with the word fan and away you go on the show. Zion Williamson, Diesel. Zion Williamson.
Get off my lawn.
Yeah. He is annoying the bleep out of me with his lack of discipline, lack of conditioning. He represents the upstate to a degree, and he's not making a good name for us. He's not showing a good name for himself. He's not showing a good name for anybody. And it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Now he's got $200 million. That $200 million is now fully guaranteed. And, to a lot of people, that's in the backdrop that helps them achieve their greatness level, helps them maximize their potential. To Zion Williamson, it just made him lazy. The money, the fame, it's just made him lazy. Oh, what do I have to work for? He's fat. He's injury prone. He's out of shape. He's doing windmill dunks. Can we agree that Zion Williamson has embarrassed the upstate? He's embarrassed the upstate. and he's damn near close to bust category. Damn near close to bust category. So anyway, folks, I've got my top 5 most annoying people in sports. Number 5, Barrett Sally. Number 4, Jimbo Fisher. Number 3, Kyler Murray. Number 2, Aaron Rodgers. And number 1, Zion Williamson.
We're running out of time here, Mark. I'm going to run through mine really quickly. Number 5, and I'm not going to be specific. I'm going to be rather vague here. Number 5 is the we shouldn't play X team because we have everything to lose but nothing to gain guy. Number 4 is the hopeless homer. The homer who just homers it up on every single thing, never, ever, ever being anything but a homer. Number 3 is Aaron Rodgers. Number 2 is talks trash, then plays the victim guy. And then number 1 is cheers for your conference guy.
Oh,
I almost put the Tim Tebow was persecuted guy.
Oh,
But I felt, you know what? Since Barrett Sally with the receding hairline was taking shots at Mark Ryan, I better not take 2 shots at Mark Ryan. In my list.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah, that happens. That happens. So what do you guys think? I've got a texter here that has LeBron James as number 1 on his most annoying list.
I got an issue with LeBron reposting the hit from the Colorado game on Travis Hunter, saying, "In what world is this not targeting? Dude should be thrown out of the game." LeBron, it's not targeting. Travis Hunter's both of Travis Hunter's feet were inside the field to play. Both of them were touching green. Ergo, he is a live player. And what are we talking about here? He hit him too hard, so it must have been an illegal play. The hell is that?
Diesel, I can already feel where this is going with Coach Prime. It's Coach Prime, and I don't want this to happen, but I think it's going to. The far right is not going to like the Colorado Buffaloes.
Sure.
You know, and the liberals and the tree-hugging hippies are going to love them. And the athletes are going to love them. You know, and it feels like, you know, even though sports should be a safe haven from politics, it feels exactly like that's where this is headed.
Well, I could also see a whole lot of donations from big-time athletes coming to Colorado that they've never had before. LeBron, and let's just say there's 20 other players across all different kinds of sports who love Deion Sanders and love what he does. They all just want to break off, you know, $5 million a pop. Like, to LeBron James, $5 million is nothing. So if LeBron and Steph and whoever all love Coach Prime, what if they all decided to break off $5 million and all of a sudden Colorado's got an additional $100 million in their NIL coffers?
How about that?
It hasn't happened yet, but it very easily could.
Nothing wrong with donations. We've got your college football segment with Jake Crane of Crane and Company coming your way next, right here on the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides. Mark, Ron, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. As we are each and every week, by the host of the nationally acclaimed, the very svelte Jake Crane of Crane and Company. At Jake Crane _ is where you can get to him on Twitter, and he joins us right now on the line. Happy Super Tuesday, Jake. Looking great, my friend. Feeling great, it seems, as well. How are you, sir?
Man, it's a great day. What a great slate of football we got coming up this weekend. I'm just excited, man. I'm living the dream.
So naturally, Jake, I'm gonna start off with an off the field question for you, because when we've got like a hot,
I didn't do it.
Yeah, I know. When we've got a hot button issue like this, we've asked this question today to the voice of Clemson. Now we ask it to you, and it dawned upon me last night watching Monday Night Football, Jake, because like if I was a Clemson fan, this would really conflict me. Whether Clemson fans should still claim Deshaun Watson. I'm watching Cleveland, who signed him, and Pittsburgh, who wouldn't. And they both needed a quarterback. Some say, well, Pittsburgh is a great organization, Cleveland's a dumpster fire, and that's what you get. And I was thinking to myself, man, I bet Clemson fans really feel conflicted about that. What's your take on that whole situation? Clemson fans claiming or not to claim the best quarterback who ever played at the school.
Well, look, not only would I claim him right now if I'm a Clemson fan, I'd just be like Wolverine laying in my bed looking at a picture of him in a Clemson jersey. Oh, when the times were great. I mean, heck, helped you beat Bama. I mean, yeah, I would listen. The off-the-field stuff, okay, like I know it's not great. But when it comes to on the field, that was when Clemson was absolutely cooking. And now kind of, the way it's looking and kind of the trajectory it seems where Clemson's going, not only would I claim him, hell, I'd probably build a statue of him last week.
Jake, I forwarded that question or continued that question with Don Munson about what systems Clemson has in place. And I'm sure most schools have systems like this in place. And you being a former coach, I'd love to get your perspective on this. How did you guys attempt to prepare players for their futures after college football, especially those that had NFL talent? I don't know how many NFL worthy guys or guys that were headed to the NFL you've coached in your career, but how did you try to drill into their heads, this is how you should behave, these are the pitfalls you've got coming to you? How did you guys do that?
Well, I mean, you know this, Diesel, and I was fortunate enough to be able to coach Jeremy Reeves and Gerald Everett. He's out there for the Chargers right now, and guys that have played in the league that, I'm still just unbelievably proud of, and they're all great people. But look, you do that through the game of football. I mean, that's the best part about the game to me, is that it's a great teacher of life. That's one of the biggest pros of playing this sport. It's the ultimate team sport. You learn how to have to accomplish a goal with other people, but you have to learn to be able to handle prosperity and adversity, not only as a football player, but what comes along with that, with the schedule that you have to maintain and being manageable your time and kind of learning how to become a better person, not letting stuff go to your head and not getting so down that you can't operate. So I think it kind of goes hand in hand. Now when it comes to, the X's and O's and stuff like that, that's so much different than the times where, you have your office in the facility and a lot of times guys want to hang out in the facility and you're in there and you're talking to them about way more than just football. That's the thing that people really don't get to see. That is one of the most fun parts of coaching and being part of that team. It's not just the hey, we're going to run, this coverage. If they give us this, if they go to empty, here's our 3 empty checks. And, oh, you made a great play, or, oh, I got to get on you because you made a bad play. But it's recruiting them. It's learning, who they are, who their parents are, who their guardians were, knowing their strengths and weaknesses and them knowing your strengths and weaknesses. To me, it's all baked in, and that's what makes football the greatest sport that's ever graced the earth.
Jake Crane joining us here on Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, the fan upstate. Clemson, Florida State, Jake. If the upset were to happen, how does it happen? And perhaps more importantly, would you consider Clemson over Florida State an upset?
I mean, yeah, with where Florida State's ranked and where Clemson's not ranked, obviously it's an upset. Now, when you look at the spread, it's tight. And look, it should be. And I always caution fans of our show, and especially people that bet on the games, do not use the transitive property for everything when it comes to college football. There's some times where you can use it, but just because a team plays a certain way against one team doesn't mean they're going to play that same way against a different team. Clemson has to have this game. They have to have it after what happened against Duke to be able to meet the standard that Dabo has lifted Clemson to. Florida State's coming off a game where, you went to play Boston College. It's the red bandana game. They always play really well in that. Castellanos, I thought, played out of his mind. Now, I don't think Florida State was overlooking them. I just think they got surprised a little bit by how much of a fight that Boston College put up after how bad BC looked on film after the first 2 weeks. But for Clemson to win, they need a couple things to happen. Cade Klubnik's going to have to be an effective runner of the ball. If you've noticed, one of Florida State's weaknesses is quarterbacks that can run. You see what Castellanos did to him last weekend. You see what, even though they didn't push the ball down the field, what Jaden Daniels was able to do on the ground with the zone read and taking off and turning things into a scramble drill. Not that Cade Klubnik's as athletic as those two guys, but he can run well enough that on those 3rd and 6s, being able to take off and recognize man coverage and extend drives. Because when it comes down to it, Florida State does have better players than Clemson does. They do, per capita, without a doubt. We've talked, and I've talked on this show about Clemson's kind of downfall when it comes to skill players. So they've got to find a way to extend drives in other ways. And then in the red zone, obviously, the 4-point play, you've got to be able to punch the ball in for a touchdown and not kick field goals. Because as good as Clemson's defense is, Jordan Travis has taken his game to the next level because he's not scrambling to run initially. He's scrambling with his eyes downfield to throw, and then the run is secondary. So I do think Clemson is going to put up a fight. Florida State is going to score. But if Clemson's going to win this game, the two keys, scoring touchdowns in the red zone and Cade Klubnik being effective enough with his legs, and that includes in the red zone. So those are two things, obviously, that we broke down today with Tom Luganbill on ways Clemson can win this game.
Jake, I watch a lot of football. You do too. But every season I find myself less and less clear on what targeting is, what certain rules are meant to do. The Henry Blackburn hit on Travis Hunter, was it dirty? Was it targeting? Was it ejection worthy? The way I see it, both of his feet were still in the field of play. I don't have a problem with the hit at all. I didn't see him on his way out of bounds. Now the hit pushed him out of bounds. But what were your thoughts on that play?
If the hit was against anybody other than Travis Hunter, is there this uproar right now? Do you think he's getting death threats?
If it's Travis Hunter laying that hit on somebody else, are we talking about this in a completely different way of look how amazing that hit was?
Nobody's talking about Travis Hunter ripping the helmet off the Nebraska player after the play. Nobody's talking about that. But look, I don't think that was dirty or as dirty as what people make. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and lie. I mean, when you talk the way that some of these guys talk, I saw it. I mean, I used to have to get guys back on pregame telling each other, hey, I'm going to find you. If I get a chance, I'm going to find you. That's what this game is. Now, that wasn't super late. It was tough to see where the defender's eyes were when that ball went over his head, because once you pull that trigger, you pull that trigger. So, no, I don't think it was as dirty as what people are making it out to be. Now, it's unfortunate for Travis Hunter in Colorado. And look, that was one of a lot of things in that game. I mean, Colorado State had 9 personal fouls in that game, which is absolutely egregious. But when it comes to targeting, here's my problem with it. Like the one that got called in the LSU-Mississippi State game when Jaden Daniels jumped and Preston just tackled him and slammed him. How is that targeting? I don't – and I'm a defensive coach, but how many times if we're going to sit here and you're going to tell me, okay, Jake, the reason we're calling targeting is to protect the players, then why the hell do y'all never call it on the offense when the running back ducks his head or a tight end ducks his head or a quarterback ducks his head? How come y'all never call it then? How many targeting's ever been called on an offensive lineman for ducking his head in something when he's pulling to kick somebody out? That's the part that blows my mind. That's the part that nobody can explain to me. If defensive guys, I understand if you watch enough football, you know when somebody is lowering that crown of the helmet to go try and take somebody out or take somebody's head off. We see quarterbacks slide and guys try and bury them or dagger them. That's a penalty. You can control that. But another thing is, if I'm a defender and I'm going to tackle somebody and I'm going to hit you with my eyes, which is what I used to teach my guys, see what you hit. And I go down to hit you and then you lower your body at the same time and we hit helmets, how am I supposed to control that? It is a penalty that is fraudulent on its face with the way that they call it. If they called it more evenly, I could understand it. But to me, it's way out of control. It's kind of like, really, what is pass interference, right? Or I'll give you one better. What is a foul in college basketball? I have no idea.
Jake Crane joining us here on the show. Jake, I'm curious how you digested the Gamecocks game against Georgia. My takeaway was not there yet, making progress, getting closer. Previous 3 games against Georgia, average margin of victory for the Bulldogs was 32. Obviously, this one was 10. You don't need to celebrate a moral victory, but you can also acknowledge progress that has been made. And I did get the sense that the talent gap between those two schools has closed somewhat.
Yeah, look, I think it's multiple things. One, I thought Georgia was very vanilla in the first half. They kept the training wheels on Carson Beck like they were playing Ball State. South Carolina's not the greatest team ever, but they're good enough where you have to take them seriously from a play calling standpoint. They weren't getting Brock Bowers involved. I know they have some injuries, but it was amazing the way they came out in the second half, speaking about Georgia, when they were expanding the perimeter, letting Carson Beck utilize the whole field, taking some shots down the field, and you saw what happened. But the part I can't, and we talked about this all week, and Mark, I think I talked about it on you guys' show last week. If I was South Carolina going in this game with a deficient offensive line, with the injuries that they have, including their swing guy, the sixth guy on the offensive line, I would have taken a page out of Sean Lewis and Colorado's playbook against TCU, where I know I'm not going to be able to run it. So I'm going to supplement the quick passing game, the screen game, bubbles, nows, slants, hitches for the run game. And they did that in the first half. They did that, and they got their best player Leggett involved. And it was working. And I do want to say this. There may not be a more valuable player to his team than Spencer Rattler is to South Carolina. He has made so much money this year, and his attitude and the way he carries himself, hats off to that young man, because we always knew he was talented, but I think he's grown as an individual and as a teammate and has matured. But South Carolina came out, and it was working, right? The quick game, they were staying ahead of schedule. Georgia kind of gave up on the pass rush about halfway through the first half, similar to the way TCU did, because they couldn't get there. But then in the second half, they played it safe. I was shocked. I was shocked that they did that. You have nothing to lose. You have all the momentum. It seemed to me that in the second half of that game, South Carolina tried to treat it the way that Florida treated the second half of that game against Tennessee. Sometimes you gotta keep your foot on the gas pedal and keep screaming America while the Little River Band plays in the car. And they didn't do that. So I love the plan going in, but goodness, keep going. It's working, man. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And they tried to get cute.
They certainly did. It seemed that way, and they couldn't afford to do that, man. It was incredible to witness. Jake, seemingly everything Coach Prime is touching is turning to gold, but are there any incorrect button pushes that he's made thus far, in your opinion?
You know, I from an incorrect standpoint, I wasn't in love. And listen, I know it's Prime, and his arrogance, man, it works, and that confidence works. I wasn't in love with the 60 Minutes interview. I didn't think that was the best. But I tell you what I did like a lot, when he came out and said about the Blackburn kid and how he didn't think he was a dirty player, and that sending death threats to him is ridiculous, and that he's a heck of a player, and he hopes he does well in the NFL. You know, Prime, it's funny. Prime rubs a lot of people the wrong way, rubs a lot of people the right way. But how many times does Prime ever talk about somebody else's team in a negative light? You never see that. You would think that Prime was out there saying, oh, these guys suck. No, he's talking about his guys. Well, we have confidence. Win. We think we can win. Nobody believes in us. That's fine. It's personal to us. He's never saying anything about another team or another coach. It was Jay Norvell who took a shot at him, an unnecessary shot. I don't think he's wrong for believing that. I was raised the same way, but that doesn't help you. So I think Prime, here's the question. It's one thing to be the hunter. It's another to be the hunted. And it's going to come a certain point in time very quickly with recruiting and through the transfer portal, which is basically the same thing now, that Colorado is not at a disadvantage where you can use it's us against the world mentality. At some point, a puppy eats enough dog food to become a big dog. So when you're a big dog, how can you handle that? Can you continue that motivation? Can you continue that chip on the shoulder mindset? And I tell you, two of the greatest I've ever seen it doing it are Kirby Smart and Nick Saban. And there's I'm not saying that Prime can't. We just haven't seen that yet.
Jake, I know you were obviously super proud of South Alabama and what they were able to do on Saturday. But, like, what the heck is going on at Oklahoma State to be essentially blanked by a program that hasn't had a ton of success over the last 10 years or so? Now, they're coming on over the last 2 years. Credit there to the Jags. But, like, what is going on in Mike Gundy's program?
It's a bad football team. You watch that game, and I did. I mean, look, Mike Gundy, he's 40. He's a man, but his team's just not very good. The quarterback situation's a disaster. They don't seem like they have any confidence offensively. And to me, I feel like that's starting to bleed through to the whole team. Because you can sit here and say, listen, man, we'll be a defensive team. Don't worry, offense, we got you. But the defense knows that the offense is bad. You can't hide that. And eventually it just becomes defensively like you're on a hamster wheel. And once it caves, that kind of last wall of, for lack of a better term, defense, which is what it is, seems to cave. But Oklahoma State, kind of like Baylor had done, there was kind of an identity shift in the Big 12, and you saw it with Kansas State last year of, hey, we're not just a Harlem Globetrotters, spread them out, throw it around, let's win games 55-48. There was a physical shift, kind of like the way we saw Utah separated themselves in the Pac-12 in the way that Oregon's trying to do it, and Oregon State is doing it. But they didn't keep evolving past that. They just became worse offensively and not as dominant defensively. So, we can sit here and break it down and look at all of you. You got a 3-man quarterback rotation still, which means you have no quarterbacks. And there's not a lot of confidence and rhythm on that team. And it just snowballed. They're not an explosive play team. And when they get behind, they just can't catch up.
His name is Jake Crane, a host of Crane and Company. It's on Real Daily Wire, Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Make sure you subscribe to them on YouTube. It is a fantastic show. Jake, as always, my friend, truly appreciate all that you do, all of your support, all of your time on this show. And thanks for being a friend, pal. We'll talk to you next week.
Of course, man. Obviously, love what you guys do. Love the show. You guys absolutely kill it. And it's an honor to come on every Tuesday. And I look forward to talking about next week.
Let's do it. Jake Crane, Crane and Company. Always a treat to have him on the show. All right, up next. I don't think many of you realize just how special this upcoming weekend is. I'll detail that on the flip side. Here on the show that gives you both sides. It's Offsides. Mark Ryan and Diesel. And we are the Fan Upstate. It's Offsides. Mark Ryan and Diesel. We are the Fan Upstate. How crazy is it, ladies and gentlemen? I mean, think about this for a minute. That both schools, both power schools in the state of South Carolina, Clemson and South Carolina, have their D-Day week right at the same time. It's on the exact same week. Realize for a moment, folks, if things break a certain way, if Florida State beats Clemson into oblivion, if Mississippi State upsets South Carolina in Columbia, this place is going to be a morgue next week. And I don't know if many people are ready for that yet. It feels like, you waited 11 and a half months for college football, and the very month that it begins, it's already all she wrote. It's already all over. You heard Chris Phillips say on the show yesterday, if South Carolina loses to Mississippi State, the only future for the team this year is grim. All possible forecasts are grim, right? You lose to Mississippi State at home, then you have at Tennessee, then you have Florida. Then you have at Missouri. How does that game typically go? Then you have at Texas A&M, trying to hopefully maybe save their head coach's life, right? I mean, for South Carolina, this is as must-win as it gets. If you are 1-3, the wheels aren't falling off. They're done gone, okay? You've got nubs to your carriage. There's no more wheels left. Likewise for Clemson. I'm not sure how many Clemson fans realize this, but should the Tigers lose this game, okay, Florida State and Duke would have to lose 3 ACC games for Clemson to pass either one of them, okay? 3. Clemson would have 2 ACC losses. Florida State and Duke would have none, and they would own the tiebreaker over Clemson. So if Clemson loses this game, okay, in terms of a New Year's Six game, in terms of an ACC championship, in terms of the college football playoff, turn out the lights, the party's over. That's exactly where we're at. And I don't know about you guys. I can't believe that we find ourselves in this predicament. I still can't believe Clemson lost to Duke. I did have South Carolina at 1-2 after 3 games. But I do have them beating Mississippi State. But isn't it something, that, for my school, Florida, the D-Day was this last Saturday, right? There was no way that Florida was going to be able to make anything of this season if they didn't beat Tennessee. You know, if they start out 1-2, when you consider what Florida has on its slate ahead, Florida State, LSU, Georgia, right? When you consider what's still on the front burner for the Gators, you don't beat Tennessee at home, there's no chance for a good season. You're looking at 4-8, 5-7, maybe 6-6, best case scenario. Nothing good can happen for the season if you lose that game. It's the exact same way for Clemson this week. It's the exact same way for South Carolina this week. How crazy is it, my friends, that we're hitting all this at the exact same time? All right, let's check and read your text messages coming in on the screen right now. Let us see here today. Texter says, Mark, why won't you do a segment on how Alabama sucks and doesn't have a quarterback? Isn't that obvious, Texter? I mean, do we have to do a segment on it?
Wrong state.
Yeah, I mean, like it's pretty obvious. I can't believe Alabama's found themselves in that predicament. Texter says, digging the Pantera outro music. Just got the chance to see them. Texter says, let's see here. The most annoying guy in sports is Mark Ryan when he pronounces it upstate instead of upstate like it should be. So okay. So
I think you say upstate.
Oh, I do? Okay, so I'm putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable. Upstate. Okay.
Man, that is nitpicking, my friend. Good God, we must be doing a lot of things right if that's what annoys you.
But you'll like it, Diesel, because he says, this ain't New York, man. Come on. Upstate. Let's see here. Texter says, the most annoying person in sports, well, he believes it's Lonzo. Oh, come on. There's nothing but love here in this building.
Rude.
There's nothing but love here in this building. Texter says, Mark, I love you and the show, but this is nothing new for us Clemson fans. You weren't here for the Bowden days. We've been here before. Been a while, but we know how it is to suck. That being said, Clemson wins 34-31. Love you too, sir. Love you too. Texter says, the most annoying guys in sports, LeBron James, Aaron Rodgers, Clemson fans, LSU fans, and Kentucky fans. So says JT and Greer. Spur Daddy, great to hear from you, bud, says the most annoying people in sports are the obnoxious Cowboy fans, and right now they are unbearable. Texter says the most annoying people in sports, the top 20, 1 through 5 are Stephen A. Smith. 5 through 10 are Skip Bayless. 10 through 17 are Kendrick Perkins. 18 is Urban Meyer. Dude is just there to flirt with co-eds, he says. Number 9, he says he doesn't like the DA show. Most of the cast of the DA show. It's a little better since Mraz left. And number 20, Chris Carlin. Doesn't seems to tote the company lines in his shows.
Hey, our guy Carlos with a K is occasionally a cast member on the DA show.
He is, man. He is.
You guys love him when he comes on.
Most certainly the case. All right, guys. We've got the top 5 at 5 coming your way next, right here on the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark Ryan and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate. This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark Ryan and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate, rolling on until 7 o'clock p.m. today. Truly do appreciate you making time for us, man. Look, you got a lot of choices out there, and we thank you for making us part of your afternoon. Let's get right to it. It's the top 5 at 5, the top 5 biggest sports stories of the day, the top 5 topics we're discussing. Ladies and gentlemen of the Upstate, Offsiders, the top 5 at 5 starts right now.
And now, the top 5 at 5.
And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hit it.
They done messed around and made it what?
5.
All right, my friends, at number 5 today on the show. You know, guys, can any of you guys explain to me what the beef is between Clemson fans and the Carolina Panthers? There is a beef going on here. I don't understand the genesis of it. I know that the Carolina Panthers never seem to have any Clemson players, but I don't, for the life of me, understand the why there. You know, like I don't get it. What am I missing here? So Carolina doesn't draft Clemson players. You guys have the attitude, well, you're not going to draft any of us. The hell with you, right? But why? Why is Carolina not drafting any Clemson players? Is there something insidious going on there? You could make a point, well, I assure you it's just coincidence that we haven't drafted a Florida Gator, right? But if it keeps happening year after year after year, and the wedge between those two fan bases grows, let's be honest, the best thing, if I'm running the Carolina Panthers, I'm like, look, man, if it's close and we're considering some guys, we're taking the Clemson guy, we've got to get that fan base. If South Carolina matters to you, you can't purposely shun Clemson players. And I know Jerry Richardson, he had a connection to South Carolina. I think it was a Gamecock. Is that why they don't draft Clemson guys? It's crazy to me.
I mean, look, last night, Brian Brzee looked pretty dang good.
Did he not?
He looked really good for the Saints. I mean, that would have been a player that the Carolina Panthers should have moved on.
Yeah, and there's countless examples of it. So from your own perspective, what can you share with me about the beef between Clemson and the Carolina Panthers? Like, why? Is it between the programs? Is it just the fans? Why is it there? How come the Carolina Panthers never draft Clemson players? I want to know what you're thinking. Tell me what's on your mind. I really, really do want to know. Next up.
4.
How crazy is it, my friends, that here we are on Tuesday, September 19th, 2023. And on this Tuesday, we are in the throes of D-Day week for not one but two, both of the Palmetto State's power schools. It is so crazy to me that D-Day for both schools, Clemson and South Carolina, falls at the exact same time. Let's explore the why. If Clemson loses to Florida State, none of their preseason goals are attainable. None. Zero, zilch, nada. We said before the season, you guys agreed with us, that this season was college football playoff or bust for Clemson. But even if they didn't make it there, as Dabo says, you don't have to walk around like a bunch of failures around here if you win the ACC. But you see, my friends, if Clemson fails to beat Florida State, they will be sitting there with 2 ACC losses, needing Florida State and Duke or Florida State, each to lose 3 to pass either one of them. They would have to lose 3 games in the ACC out of only 8. You know as well as I do, that is not going to happen. On the South Carolina side of the coin, if Mississippi State, if the Bulldogs go to Columbia and upset the South Carolina Gamecocks, man, Katie bar the door, because them damn wheels have fallen off the carriage. 1-3 can't happen. Inexcusable. It's D-Day week. My school, Florida, had their D-Day week last week. They rose to the challenge. They beat Tennessee. They beat Tennessee convincingly. They beat Tennessee going away. It was their D-Day week. Florida could not make anything of their season if they lost that game. Must have, must win. If South Carolina's 1-3 heading to Tennessee, hide the eyes of the women and children. If Clemson loses to Florida State at home in ugly fashion, not playing for the CFP anymore, not playing for the ACC anymore, not playing for a New Year's Six game anymore, what exactly are you playing for? Yeesh. D-Day for both schools. How crazy is it, folks? What do you make of the fact that both schools have D-Day on the exact same week? Next up.
3.
All right, at number 3 today. I stirred up a hornet's nest last night. Don't act like you're surprised. When I asked the question of Clemson fans, do you claim Deshaun Watson? Do you claim him as one of your own? Do you wrap your arms around him? Or do you distance yourself from him? Do you guys still claim Deshaun Watson? And here's what really threw me. I asked the question because I thought it would be challenging to Clemson fans. right? I thought they would really have to think and hem and haw. And, Mark, I don't know that there's an easy answer to that one, right? Because for me, if I was a Clemson fan, I'm leaning no. I'm leaning, there's just too much smoke there. And realize, folks, I am the dude that hates when we just bury people when there's an accusation against them. In this case, what we know about Deshaun is that he solicited sex from multiple masseuses. He tried to get them in a room and spring sex on them, which is really creepy behavior. And unless we want to disregard any of the testimony against him, at minimum, he exposed himself when masseuses walked into the room. At best, he had consensual sex with many masseuses and tried to have sex with many more who were not interested in doing that with him. I don't know, man. I'm leaning towards not claiming him. If I was a Clemson fan, I expected Clemson fans to be conflicted. What I did not expect is 99% of Clemson fans immediately to say, oh, yeah, of course, he's the GOAT. Of course we claim him. What kind of a question is that? Of course we claim him. What he did had nothing to do with football. Who the hell cares? He's a reflection of your university. He represents the university for the rest of your life. Why do you think that when we did the Clemson quarterback medal stand a couple years ago, you guys voted? Deshaun was 1, Trevor was 2, Taj was 3. We tried to do it again this summer. You guys wanted to make Trevor Lawrence gold. It's because of the Deshaun Watson stuff. It's because of it. I understand the Christian religion. Those of you on our YouTube feed right now will see the cross that I wear around my neck. I understand that Christianity preaches forgiveness. At the same time, I'm not sure if I'm claiming that baggage either. Okay? I continue to be shocked and surprised that many a Clemson fan, a majority of Clemson fan, don't even see the need to think about it. That's really surprising to me. Mark Hodge, I think, says it right. He goes, there's no joy in admitting a hero has faults. Can't say 30-plus women are all lying. I don't think he committed a crime, but he did have an addiction. That's one side of it that I respect. A less respectful side, Jackson Wolf says, you aren't a Clemson fan if you don't claim Deshaun Watson. What he did for Clemson's program is untouchable. I don't know. Do you guys even wrestle with whether to claim him or not? I mean, is that a tough question for you or an easy question for you?
Isn't it also like asking people, are you willing in your mind to vacate wins? If your program gets busted doing something bad and you have to vacate wins, have you really forgotten about it? People can't forget about it. They can't forget about the way they felt in that season that was so special.
Vacating wins is the dumbest punishment of all
time.
The dumbest punishment of
Ridiculous.
all time. Next up.
2.
At number 2, the 5 most annoying people in all of sports. Who are they? I've got number 5, Barrett Sallee, CBS Sports. Has an axe to grind with me because 4 years ago, he and I got into a disagreement about Tiger Woods.
What's your problem, Sally?
And so every chance he gets, he likes to throw mud on me with his 128,000 followers. I welcome it, Barrett. I welcome it, Barrett Sally. I really do. Number 4 for me is Jimbo Fisher. An old wise man once said, speak softly but carry a big stick. Jimbo Fisher speaks loudly and carries no stick. All bark, no bite. All style, no substance. Where are the results? Number 3 most annoying person in sports, Kyler Murray. Unreal athleticism that he was blessed by God with. And he'd rather play video games. He's not prepared. He was able to get away with his athleticism at every level. Pee-wee, 11 on 11. High school, college. Can't do that in the NFL. Doesn't get it. Second most annoying person in sports is Aaron Rodgers. First is the upstate's own Zion Williamson. The worst thing, man, is when you have a moment of success, and you get lazy in Zion's case, fat and happy. You rest on your laurels. I'm going to give you guys 3 pillars that have helped me be successful.
Hey, beignets are really good. Calm down.
Yeah.
Relax.
Hey, listen, Diesel. No one's saying you're a bad guy if you have 1 or 58 of those. Okay?
Red beans and rice and beignets have put a lot of people deep in the couch.
There are. But anyway, guys, my pillars, okay? Take initiative, be persistent, don't rest on your laurels. Everything I do, I'm telling myself that. Take initiative, be persistent, don't rest on your laurels. You have no idea things we have going on behind the scenes that require us doing all of those things. Taking initiative, being persistent, not resting on your laurels, right? I don't know. Zion is guilty of not doing any of those things. And I think he's an embarrassment to the upstate, trending very heavily toward the bust category. And finally,
1.
at number 1 today, Frank Reich, a Monday Night Football game that Carolina wasn't especially competitive in, says we've got to learn, we've got a lot to learn from, and we've got to get a lot better.
We just got to own every bit of it. We got to learn from it and got to get better. We're talking in there for a little bit, not with the team, just talking with a couple guys. Like I've seen this before. It's not that far away. It looks bad, but really I don't believe it's that far away. We make a couple plays here. We here and there, and next thing you know, you got 28, 30 points. I know that's true. I know we have the players and the coaches to do it. I have zero doubt about that. It's just we have to execute better on offense.
I think they're a long ways away, ladies and gentlemen. I think the Carolina Panthers are a long ways away. What was more interesting to me than even the game, I mean, you got a rookie quarterback playing behind no offensive line with no weapons, with a coach trying to find his way with a new team. Okay, but we shouldn't just focus on the good things, right? What stood out to me, though, was the atmosphere last night at that game sucked. Why? It's Monday Night Football. You've got the number 1 pick in the draft. It's his first ever game at home. And instead of a raucous college-like atmosphere, it was like a golf clap. I couldn't believe it. And it had me wondering, why is that the case? Why did the atmosphere suck so bad? Compared to college football, it just feels muted. Neutered. The wifey asked me over the weekend why I like college football better than the NFL. That's one of the reasons. Okay? Every game matters. That's another reason. In the NFL now, you could win the Super Bowl with a 9-8 record. You can't tell me every game matters if that's the case, right? College football, even with NIL and the transfer portal, still feels more organic to me. The NFL feels homogenized. And then you don't get the crazy atmospheres and the crazy environments, Last night, the team that represents this in the NFL, the Carolina Panthers, atmosphere sucked. Why? Is the issue Carolina's fan base? Is the issue the team? Or is the issue a corporate wine and cheese crowd that attends NFL football games? What say you? And those are today's top 5 at 5. Now it's your chance to chime in, which you can do at 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-FANFONE. That's 844-326-3663. The CarPro.com text line is there for you at 71307 to start your text with the word fan, and away you go. You can get to us on Facebook, on Twitter, and on YouTube. We'd love to have you. You can get to us at the Fan Upstate on all of them. Please like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to us on YouTube. And finally, email. You guys can all email the show. Mark Ryan, that is M-A-R-C Ryan, at thefanupstate.com. All the different ways you can get in touch with us here on the most interactive sports radio show anywhere. Lots of texts coming in on the CarPro.com text line. We are going to get to them most certainly. Death threats for a Colorado State Ram, plus Diesel and I's Carolina's top 10. All coming your way next, right here on the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides, Mark Ryan and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate.
Stream, thank you as always for being here. We appreciate it. Huge number. We got up to like 12 or 13 different people in the stream today. That was great. We need to build this thing to 15 and 20. That's your goal. That is your task. That is your homework to get somebody new in this stream tomorrow.
You guys are the bestest. The bestest. I appreciate you so much, man. Every single one of you that comes in here every single day. Thank you so very, very much for doing what you do. And thank you for helping us launch this platform as well. And we hope to see you tomorrow out at Ingles. We'll see you guys there. Have a great one.